Hello everyone. In today's chapter, we are going to discuss about Stammer. It's a poem. I hope you know the word meaning of the word stammer. Stammering or stammer means a disability in talking. Like we feel a kind of disturbance or difficulty when we talk. Like when I say a word, I say apple. So that acting is known as stammer or stammering. Especially when some people talk, they feel difficulty to find words. Even though they have the words in the mind, for them it's difficult to pronounce and come up with all the words. Yeah. Like whenever we talk in Malayalam or in any other language, people with a kind of disability with that tongue, they feel difficult when they speak. That's known as stammer. This is a poem from your third unit, and this is the last chapter also from that, by K. Sachidanandan. Written by K. Sachidanandan. I hope we have to know about K. Sachidanandan, as he is a Keralite, he is a Malayali, so we should know something about him. I'll read it. Okay. Born in 1946 in Kerala, in our own God's own country. Okay, he is an Indian poet writing in English and in Malayalam. So he writes both in English and in Malayalam. Okay, and he is known as a pioneer of Malayalam modern poetry. Like modern poetry and classical poetry, that are two streams or two, when we divide poems into two, one is classical, another one is modern. Modern means something with modern aspects, with new words, with new style of freestyle writing. That was implemented by K. Sachidanandan to Malayalam. Pioneer means a founder or a starter, someone who starts something as a new. Okay, so Sachidanandan brought modern poetry to Malayalam, and he is known as a father of modern poetry. He is known as a pioneer of modern poetry in Malayalam. See, he is also a critic and a columnist, translator, and a former secretary of the Kendra Sahitya Academy. Kendra Sahitya Academy. You heard about Kendra Sahitya Academy award. He was a columnist, translator, and a former secretary. Okay. As an intellectual, upholding secular and democratic views, and his views always are secular, democratic, inclusive, not to exclude anyone. He was with a philosophy of including everybody, even the disabled or with the differently abled, from every sectors of society, whether it is from his own caste or his own religion. Irrespective of all that, he always believed in inclusiveness, and he believed in the value of democracy, which in India it is one of the most biggest democratic country in the world. Okay, and he supports causes like environment, human rights, and free software. Like everything, he promotes all that. His lectures and articles on issues concerning contemporary Indian literature are thought-provoking. Thought-provoking means something that will lead to think. Okay, and he was shortlisted for the Nobel Prize for the Literature in 2011. He was shortlisted for Nobel Prize. That's all about Sachidanandan. He is a Malayali, born in 1946, and is a pioneer of Malayalam modern poetry. He is a columnist, critic, and he believes in secular value. Right. Okay, let's go through the poem. Before that, you can complain because two perspective in the life. Our life is different according to the perspective or according to the stand which we take in different situations. Look here for the example. When you see a rose flower, you can see it in two aspects. Like you say, oh, there are thorns. There are thorns in the rose flower or the rose plant. Same time you can say there is a rose flower in between the thorn. So that are two perspectives, both are same. I can see the same flower and you can also see the same flower, but which part we highlight, the thorn or the rose? When we highlight the thorn, we are highlighting the negative part of life. When we highlight the rose, we highlight the positive part of life. Okay, here perspective make the difference. Read and experience the poetic rendition. Poetic rendition means performance or interpretation. The word rendition means look, performance or interpretation of a dramatic role or anything else of Stammer by K. Sachidanand. So here Sachidanand would give us a poetic rendition of stammering when people have a problem with talking. See, look at the first line, stammer. So the first line, stammer is no handicap. It's a mode of speech. Stammer is a silence that falls between the word and its meaning, just as lameness is a silence that falls between the word and deed. First thing he tells, stammer is no handicap, means this is not a disability. Stammer is not a disability, but it's another mode of speech. So when people here Sachidanandan would like to glorify the stammer also, and he doesn't want to blame anyone, even he stammers or not. Stammering is not at all a disability. It is not a handicap. It is a mode of speech. It's another style of talking. Like, and one more thing he tells, stammer is the silence that falls between the word and its meaning. For example, when I tell the word pen, I struggle, pen. Like when I tell that word fully, it conveys a meaning. When I tell that word pen, it conveys a meaning, that is, this is a pen, right? So before I tell, there is some silence or there is a gap. There is a gap when I come to that word, like pen. When I come to that word, there is a gap. That gap, that silence, okay, that is a silence. So stammering is that silence that falls between the word pen and the meaning pen. Okay, now there is difference between word and meaning. When I tell the word pen, what does it mean? We always tell in Malayalam pena. No, that does not the meaning, because meaning is this. Pena is a Malayalam translation of the word pen. Okay, there are other kalam in Arabic. So meaning is this thing which comes. For example, in case of tree, when you think about the meaning, for example, if we tell the word tree, I'm not good at drawing trees anyway. Okay, suppose this is a tree. So if you ask what's the meaning of the word tree, you may say maram, but maram is a Malayalam translation of what? Tree. Like if I say in Hindi, ped, I think it's, and shajara in Arabic also. So all four this word had one meaning, that is this. So meaning is different. Like that, stammer, when a person stammer, that should be known as the silence that falls between a word and meaning. And when I tell the word and meaning, never misunderstand a word, the Malayalam translation or your mother tongue translation. Meaning is different. For all this, meaning is what? Which comes to our mind and brain when we speak about a word. Okay. And and he compares, Sachidanandan compares stammer with lameness. Lameness means problem for our legs, like we are walking without steadying, right? Okay, if we walk like this, that's lameness. So it is like lameness. When we lame or when we are limp, what happens, between our deed, between our action and word, we need a gap when we lame. Like that, when we speak, when we stammer, we need a gap between the meaning and the word. Okay, so lameness is the gap between our action and our word, and between our word and deed. Deed means action. Okay, word. So lameness, when we lame, there should be a gap between our word and action. Like that, when we stammer, there should be a gap between our word and meaning. I hope that's clear for you. And in the first part of the part, poet says that don't consider stammer as handicap. It's another style of speech. It's a silence that falls between words and its meaning, and as lameness is a gap between the word and action. That's the meaning. Okay, coming to the next stanza or the next line. Here, poet would like to ask a question. Did stammer precede the language or succeed? For example, if I tell the word board, what maybe I will say board or board. So it's like a philosophical question whether the stammering comes before the language or after the language. That simple question. It's only a dialect. Dialect, a mode of speech for the special people, or even in Malayalam we have different dialects. Malayalam is one language, but Thiruvananthapuram has a different, Trivandrum has a different dialect, Malappuram has a different dialect, Palakkad has a different one. Like that, a special language for a group of people. Okay, so stammering is a dialect or it's a language itself. It's a question. Stammering is a dialect or it's a language itself? That's a question of the poet. These questions make even poet stammer. When someone asks as linguistic, not poet, linguistic means a people who scholars of the language. So even when we ask whether stammer precede the language or succeed it, it comes before it or after it, or is it a dialect itself or a language itself? So when we ask the linguistic about this, they also stammer ba 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 like. Okay, that's a word of Sachidanandan here. And here the poet tries to make confusion to the readers by asking some questions whether stammer comes before the words or after it, or it's a language itself or a dialect. Okay, and here comes the next part of the poem. Each time we stammer, we are offering a sacrifice to the god of meanings. When all people stammer, stammer becomes their mother tongue, just as it's with us now. He just tells, when we stammer, we are sacrificing to the god of meaning. Means, when we have risk, when we do something, there are two options, to leave it or to carry on with risk. People with stammering, they always take risk to speak, right? Maybe they can skip it, but they still speak. It means they are sacrificing to the god of meaning. If there is a god for meaning, they are sacrificing because they want to make the word and the meaning. Okay, whenever they tell any they make words, but they don't make meaning. If they want to make meaning, they should utter a full word. That's why they are sacrificing to make a meaning. I hope that's clear. Or like, when all people stammer, it become a language itself. Like our mother tongue, that's the opinion of poet. In our mother tongue, how it become our mother tongue? All people speak this language, or all Keralites speak Malayalam. That's why Malayalam is their mother tongue. Like that, if all people stammer, what happens? Stammer become the mother tongue. Okay. In this part, he tells that stammer is a sacrifice towards the god of meanings. Because to create a meaning, we take much risk as we stammer. If everyone stammer, it will become a mother tongue of other. Okay. And comes to the point, last part of the poem. God too must have stammered when he created man. That's why all the words of man carry different meanings. That's why everything he utters, from his praise to his commands, stammers like poetry. Look, he would like to tell us, when God created human being, God must have stammered, because that's why all people, when they speak, they get different meanings. That's a perspective or a philosophical thought by a talk by Sachidanandan. Okay, when God created all men, he also stammered. That's why when all the men speak, they have different meaning. Whenever they speak different words, they have different meaning, and we have different languages. Okay, maybe whenever God was stammering, he created different languages. Just simply he talks so. Okay, and we can see that in everything we utter, like in our prayers, in our comments, and even in our poetry also, we can see that stammering and that language. That's a word of Sachidanandan. At the end of the poem, he tries to make some philosophical narration of Stammer, as he says that even God must have stammered when he created men. That's why there are different meaning for different words. I mean, like we have different meaning, pen has different meaning, pencil have different, like we have different words, different meaning, because God has stammered in the beginning of the creation of the all human being. That's his word. According to a textbook, this is the most simplest poem, most shortest poem. I hope you enjoyed it. Go through the notes and go through the works and worksheet. Do it well. Thank you so much.